Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive.
Always.
Awesome. Today, we're diving into something I find really fascinating, honestly. Amish beekeeping.
Interesting choice.
Yeah, preparing for this, I thought I had a decent understanding of beekeeping, but the Amish methods, it's a whole different world.
Oh, so?
Well, we're basing this deep dive on a YouTube video called How Amish Raise Bees for Honey Without Modern Equipment, and let me tell you, it challenges a lot of conventional beekeeping wisdom.
Sounds intriguing. What kind of
So,
things stood out to you?
well, first off, forget all the fancy gadgets and technology you see in modern beekeeping. The Amish keep things incredibly simple, like they literally handcraft their hives.
Really, no prefab kits or anything?
Nope. Just good old-fashioned woodworking skills. They build these beautiful wooden hives, and get this, they let the bees design the interiors themselves.
Wait, what? How does that work?
So they construct the basic exterior frame, right, but then they let the bees build the honeycomb inside completely naturally. No pre-made foundations or anything.
That's amazing. I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, it's pretty radical when you think about it. The idea is that it creates a more natural, harmonious environment for the bees, and it lets them build the comb to their exact specifications, like their dream home.
I can see how that would appeal to the Amish way of life. Simplicity, working in harmony with nature.
Exactly. And it's not just about the aesthetics either. It actually has practical benefits for the bees. Natural wood doesn't interfere with their sense of smell, which is super important for them. Plus, it lets the bees build the comb size and shape that best suits their needs, which can lead to a healthier and more productive hive.
Fascinating. It really does challenge the way we often think about efficiency and progress.
Totally. And this focus on natural methods extends to other aspects of their beekeeping as well. Like, instead of using chemical pesticides to control pests and diseases, the Amish rely on natural remedies, herbs, essential oils, things like that.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Do they have like special Amish herbal blends for bee health?
Well, the video didn't get into that level of detail, but it did mention they use things like thyme, tea tree oil, and even lavender.
Essential oils for bees. Who would have thought?
Right, it's like a spa day for the bees. And the idea is that these natural remedies are gentler on the bees and the environment compared to harsh chemicals.
I've actually been reading some research about how the overuse of chemicals in modern agriculture is harming bee populations.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, are we overcomplicating things with all our fancy solutions? Maybe sometimes going back to basics is the best approach.
Especially when you consider what we're ultimately consuming, the honey. If the bees are exposed to fewer chemicals, the honey is likely to be purer and healthier.
Right. And that brings us to another striking difference. The way the Amish interact with their bees. Remember those bee suits with the big veiled helmets you see beekeepers wearing?
Yeah, like astronauts almost.
Exactly. Well, the Amish often work with their hives with minimal protection. Like they'll wear a hat and maybe some gloves, but that's about it.
Wow, seriously. They must have nerves of steel.
Well, the video showed one beekeeper calmly brushing a bee off his nose like it was nothing. It was incredible. They have this deep understanding of bee behavior and how to move calmly and confidently around the hives so they don't agitate the bees.
Like they've built a relationship of trust with the bees.
Yeah, it's not about dominating or controlling them. It's about respect and understanding. They see the bees as partners, not just resources to be exploited, which I think is a pretty profound way to look at it.
I agree. It aligns with their whole way of life, really.
Absolutely. And that interconnectedness extends beyond the individual beekeeper to the whole Amish community. Honey plays a really important role in their social and economic life.
Oh, yeah. The video talked about that. They use it for bartering, right?
Exactly. It's like a currency in their community. They trade it for other goods and services, and they
Okay.
share it generously with friends, family, and neighbors.
It's like a symbol of their interdependence, both with nature and with each other.
I love that. It reminds us that we're all connected and that sometimes the simplest things, like a jar of honey, can have a profound impact on our relationships and sense of community.
Definitely. It's a refreshing perspective in our increasingly individualistic world.
It is, and it makes you think, what if we approached more things in life with that same sense of interconnectedness and respect for the natural world? What kind of impact could that have?
That's a great question. And it makes me wonder, what else can we learn from the Amish approach to beekeeping?
Well, there's plenty more to unpack. We've only just scratched the surface.
I can't wait to dive deeper. So we've talked about how the Amish build their hives, how they care for the bees, and their unique philosophy. But there's one thing we haven't touched on yet, winter.
Oh, yeah. How do those bees survive the cold? It gets pretty harsh in some parts of the country.
Well, they don't have tiny bee parkas or anything, but
Yeah.
the Amish do help them out a bit. Instead of using electric heaters or anything like that, they use natural insulation.
Hmm.
Things like wool blankets and bales of hay to wrap the hives for winter.
So they basically tuck them in for a long winter's nap.
Pretty much. It's all about creating a cozy little haven for the bees, using materials that are readily available on the farm.
Makes sense. It's like a little bee hibernation station.
Exactly. And this approach actually works in harmony with the bees' natural survival mechanisms. During the winter, the bees cluster together inside the hive to conserve heat. They huddle around the queen and vibrate their wings to generate warmth.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that, bee clustering. But the video showed it in such detail. It was amazing. It's like they create this living, breathing furnace to keep themselves warm.
It's a remarkable example of collective resilience, and the Amish recognize that. They trust in the bees' natural instincts to weather the cold. There's actually some research suggesting that colonies that rely on these natural wintering methods often fare better than those with artificial heating.
Interesting. So less is more, even when it comes to keeping bees warm. It all goes back to that philosophy of working with nature, not against it.
Precisely. Now, shifting gears a bit, what about the honey harvest? I'm guessing they don't have those massive industrial extractors you see in commercial operations.
Yeah, I'd imagine it's a little more, shall we say, rustic.
You guessed it. The Amish honey harvest is about as low-tech as it gets. They carefully cut out the honey-filled combs from the hive and let the honey slowly drip through cheesecloth.
Wow, that's pretty old school. No heat, no fancy machines, just pure gravity doing its thing.
Exactly. And that slow dripping process allows the honey to retain all of its natural flavors, aromas, and nutrients. It's kind of like the slow food movement, but for honey.
The patience and care involved must make a real difference in the final product.
Absolutely. And there's another interesting thing. The Amish typically harvest honey only once a season.
Wait, only once? That seems kind of surprising, doesn't it?
It does seem counterintuitive, especially in our world of instant gratification. But the Amish prioritize the bees' well-being and the long-term health of the hive over maximizing honey production.
So it's more about sustainability than profit.
Exactly. Leaving more honey in the hive ensures that the bees have ample stores to sustain them, especially during lean times or unexpected weather events.
It's a conscious decision to put the bees' needs first, respecting the delicate balance of nature.
Precisely. And speaking of lasting a long time, did you know that raw honey, the kind the Amish produce, can last for centuries?
No way! Centuries! Are you serious?
Dead serious. Archaeologists have actually found jars of honey in ancient Egyptian tombs that were still edible.
That's just, wow. It makes you think about all the processed food we eat that expires after a few weeks or months.
Right. Maybe there's something to be said for these ancient natural methods of food preservation.
I'm starting to think so. But okay, back to the Amish. So they have all this honey that can last practically forever, but what do they do with it all? I mean, they can't possibly eat it all themselves, right?
You're right, they don't. Remember, honey is more than just a sweetener in Amish culture. It plays a central role in their community life.
Yeah, we touched on that earlier, the whole bartering system, right?
Exactly. It's a valuable commodity they use to trade for other goods and services within their community. And they also share it generously with their neighbors, friends, and family.
So it's a key part of their local economy and their social fabric as well.
Exactly. It's fascinating how something as simple as honey can have such a profound impact on their way of life.
It really makes you realize how interconnected everything is. The bees, the honey, the people, the land, it's all part of this intricate web.
It is, and it's something we often lose sight of in our modern, fast-paced world.
I agree. But the Amish remind us that there's another way, a way of life that values connection, sharing, and interdependence.
And their approach to beekeeping is a beautiful example of that. But there's an even bigger picture here, isn't there?
You mean the environmental impact?
Exactly. The Amish approach, with its emphasis on natural methods and minimal intervention, has a ripple effect that goes far beyond their community.
Right, because healthy bee populations are essential for pollination.
Precisely. Bees pollinate a vast array of crops, so their well-being directly impacts the health of our food systems and the biodiversity of our planet.
It's a reminder that everything is connected. What we do to even the smallest creatures can have huge consequences for the whole ecosystem.
It's a powerful lesson, and one that the Amish, with their deep understanding of natural systems, have clearly taken to heart.
They found a way to coexist with nature, not just exploit it.
And the benefits extend beyond just environmental health. Their model also shows that sustainable practices can foster strong communities and resilient local economies.
It's a win-win for everyone involved.
Exactly. It's a holistic approach that addresses multiple challenges simultaneously. It's inspiring, really.
It is, and it makes you think, what if we all took a page from their book? What if we applied their principles of simplicity, sustainability, and community to our own lives and our own communities?
What kind of world could we create?
That's a question worth pondering. Wow, it's amazing to think we started with just one YouTube video. And look at all these ideas it sparked. You know,
It is pretty incredible how much there is to unpack, even in something seemingly simple, like Amish beekeeping.
I know, right? Like, I came into this thinking, okay, beekeeping, honey, I kind of get it. But the Amish way is just, well, it's eye-opening, honestly.
I think it really highlights how much we can learn from traditional practices.
Absolutely. It's like sometimes we get so caught up in the latest and greatest, that
Wow.
we forget the wisdom of, well, the old ways.
The Amish really demonstrate that, I think.
Yeah, and not just with beekeeping, right? Like their whole approach to life,
Mhm.
simplicity, sustainability, community, all of that, it's all intertwined.
It is. And it's so refreshing, honestly, to
Yeah.
see that in action.
I know, it's like a breath of fresh air amidst all the, I don't know, chaos and complexity of the modern world.
I think that's why this deep dive has resonated with me so much.
Me too. It's a reminder that there are other ways of being, other ways of relating to the world around us.
And it makes you question, what are we prioritizing? Are we on the right track?
Big questions, right?
Big questions, but important ones, I think.
Absolutely. And maybe, just maybe, the Amish have some answers for us.
Or at least some food for thought.
Definitely. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have, from handcrafted hives to natural remedies to centuries-old honey.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. And I hope our listeners have enjoyed it as much as we have.
I hope so too. And maybe, just maybe, it's inspired some of them to, think a little differently.
Yeah, maybe to look for those connections in their own lives.
To slow down a bit, appreciate the simple things.
And maybe even, plant a few bee-friendly flowers in their garden.
That's a great idea. Every little bit helps.
It does. So until next time, folks, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those deep dives going.
And don't forget to appreciate the bees. They're doing a lot more for us than we often realize.
Wise words.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. See you next time for another deep dive.